Okay, can you guys see the whiteboard?
Yes.
All right, let me know. Okay, who's drawing on it? All right, let me know if you have any questions. We'll just go by unit since this is the last day before packet turn-in. So we'll start with Unit 7. Unit 7 had only 3 questions, but there still may be questions. That was the law of sines and law of cosines unit. Any questions from Unit 7? None? All right, what about Unit 8, which was the function domain, range, inverse functions, graphing functions, yada yada.
Can you do number 2?
From Unit 8?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Okay, so number 2 is asking, write the equation of the line passing, so this is, let me write it down, Unit 8, number 2. Write the equation of the line passing through the point -2, 1. Nope, wrong one, correct? Passing through the point 1, 2, and is perpendicular to the line x minus 2y equals -5. And write it in slope-intercept form. Okay, slope-intercept form is the y equals mx plus b. So I know I'll be looking for m and looking for b. The way I find m is with this line right here. I need to know what the slope of that line is in order to find the slope of the line I'm looking for. And right now it's not in the proper form for me to find the slope or to look and say, hey, the slope is -2 or -5 or 1. I have to do stuff. What do we have to do first?
Isolate the y.
Isolate the y. Good. So I'm going to subtract the x. And that gives me -2y equals -x minus 5. What do I divide by next? -2. And that gives me y equals +1/2 x plus 5/2. What's the slope of this line right here?
1/2.
1/2. Now I'm looking for the line that is perpendicular. So if the regular slope is 1/2, what would my perpendicular slope be?
Opposite reciprocal.
Opposite reciprocal, so 2 or -2?
-2.
-2. All right, so I'm going to use this point and that slope to find b. Do you guys remember how I used that to find b? What do I plug in? What would I put in for y? What would I write in for y?
2.
2 equals m is -2, and what would I plug in for x?
1.
What was that?
1.
1. So 2 equals -2 plus b. Add your 2 over to the other side, and what do you get?
4.
b equals 4. So what is our final equation? Y equals, m was -2, -2x plus what?
4.
Plus 4. And that there is the answer. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions from Unit 8?
Yeah, I'm kind of lost on like 19 and 20.
Identify the domain. Okay, yeah, we can go through those really quick. Those are actually two, they look the same, but they are different. So I'll definitely go through both of them. Okay, so this is Unit 8. Was that 19 and 20?
Yeah.
Okay, so 19 is f of x equals x minus 5 over x plus 4. And it's asking us to find the domain. So domain for a function are the restrictions. And if it's a linear function, there's no restrictions. But this is not linear because it's a fractional equation. So whenever there's a fraction, well, first off, you look for any square roots or anything like that. There are no square roots. But since it's a fraction, you look at the denominator. And what do we know about the denominator? It can equal 0 or it cannot equal 0.
It can, right?
The denominator cannot,
Oh, okay.
because it's going to make it undefined. Like 0 over 5 is okay, but 5 divided by 0 is not. That's undefined. So the denominator cannot equal 0. X can equal 0 because 0 plus 4 is 4, and that works out just fine. But when I solve, what can X not equal? -4. And that makes sense because what is -4 plus -4?
0.
0. And that would give me a number over 0, which is not allowed because that's undefined. So it wants us to write it in interval notation. So remember what I told you guys to do back in this unit. If x cannot equal -4, that's the only number that it cannot equal. Everything else is allowed except for the -4. How would I write that in interval notation? I'll start you off, negative
It'll be
infinity.
negative infinity to -4 bracket. No, not bracket. Parentheses.
Parentheses, union.
-4 to infinity.
Good. And it's parentheses because that -4 has an open circle. If we put brackets, that means it's included, and it is not. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's take a look at 20. Now 20 is similar in the fact that it is a fraction. So same thing. The denominator cannot equal 0. So I try to factor. X squared plus 9 does not factor because it's not a minus sign, it's a plus sign right here. Okay, so the best, go ahead.
Doesn't like x2 plus 9 factor out to x minus and x plus 3i?
Yes, but when we're looking for domain, we're looking for it under over the real numbers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we don't use imaginaries when we're looking for domain. So it cannot factor. We're not going to factor using I, so we're going to subtract x squared equals -9. How do I undo an x squared? I do what to both sides? Square root, and
square root for negatives.
there's no square root for -9 without using imaginaries, which we don't use. So no real solution, which means what about my domain? If there's no restrictions, Marita, what would that mean?
It would go from negative infinity to infinity, right?
You are correct.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Can you guys give me a quick second? I'm gonna let my dog inside, okay? Can you go in, Charlie? Okay. All right, any other questions from Unit 8? Okay, Unit 9.
Can you help me explain number 14 in Unit 9?
Yep. All right, any other
Can you
besides
do number 3 and 4?
3 and 4? I sure can. Any others? Okay, I'll start off with those. If you guys have any others, let me know. Okay, Unit 9, number 3, is asking us to find the number of possible positive, negative, and imaginary complex roots for the function p of x equals x to the 5th plus 3x, nope, yeah, 3x to the 3rd minus 2x squared plus 7x minus 5. Find the number of positive, negative, and imaginary. So I'm going to put that down here. Positive, negative, imaginary. Now, Marita, do you remember at all how we found the number of possible positive solutions? It's okay if you don't, just throwing it out if you do remember.
You
Yeah, I
set
have no
up,
clue. I was absent for this unit, so.
Okay,
you set up a second equation as p to the negative x, and
You
then
are
you
correct,
apply
Eric.
like negative x to the every single x coefficient.
Okay, so that is correct for the negative. For the positive, we leave it as it is, and we look for the sign changes. Okay, so we look for the sign change. Positive to a positive, does that count as a change? No. Positive to a negative, does that count? Yes. Negative to a positive is another change. Positive to a negative is another change. So there are 3 sign changes. Why did the first one not count? Because they were both positives. Okay, so, and then we decrease by 2. That was just the rule. We subtract by 2 until we get it down to 0 or 1. We never go on the negative side. So 3 minus 2 is what?
1.
1, and that's as small as I can go, because if I minus 2, I end up negative, and I don't write numbers on the negative side. Okay, now Eric said what we do next is do p of negative x. And what we're going to do here is plug in negatives for all of my x's and then test the number of sign changes. So I'm going to plug in a negative x for all of my x's, clean it up, and then check for the sign change. Okay, negative x to the 5th is going to stay negative or become positive?
It will stay negative.
Negative, negative x to the 5th. And then negative x cubed is going to make that positive a negative, so minus 3x cubed. Negative x squared, is it going to change the negative 2 to a plus or leave it a
No,
minus?
Same.
Same, minus 2x squared. Plus 7x or minus 7x?
Mm-hmm.
Minus 7x, and then minus 5. And then we're going to look for the number of sign changes. That one doesn't count because they're both negative. That one doesn't count because it stayed a negative, stayed a negative, stayed a negative. Were there any sign changes at all?
No.
No. So that would be a 0. 0 is as small as you can get, because if you subtract 2, you end up on the negative side. Okay. Now, before I get to the imaginaries, any questions on what we've done so far? Okay. Now, on the imaginaries, remember they always have to be even. So they should not, you shouldn't end up with a number like 3 or 5. It should be 0, 2, 4, 6, and stuff like that. Okay. And how we find those is the numbers have to add up to the degree. The degree is 5. So we have different combinations. So we have 3 and 0 is 3. 3 plus what would give me 5?
2.
What would it be?
2.
2. 3, 0, 2 would give me 5. Now let's try it with the 1. 1 plus 0 is 1, plus what number would give me 5?
4.
4.
And they ended up even, just like we said, 2 and 4, and those are the only combinations. So this said possible, so our possibilities are 3 positives, no negatives, and 2 imaginaries, or 1 positive, no negatives, and 4 imaginaries. Those are the possible outcomes that we have for positive, negatives, and imaginary solutions. That's a lot to take in. Does that kind of make sense?
Uh-huh.
Marita, do you have a question?
Sorry, I was muted. I said it makes sense.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
All right. I'm going to move on then to number 4. Okay, number 4 reads, is x minus 2 a factor of the function? All right. Can you guys verify if that's correct? While you guys are verifying, I'm going to let my dog back out. Give me a second. No, it's coming. Come on. Okay. Okay. Go. Go. Okay, sorry about that. I have both dogs out now, so sorry. All right, is x minus 2 a factor? Oh. There's different ways of figuring this out. If a number is a factor, your remainder is 0. That's true on any number. For example, if I have a number 24 and I want to know if 7 is a factor, if you divide 7 into 24, will you end up with a remainder of 0? Yes or no?
No.
Does 24 divide by 7 evenly?
No.
No, so it's not a factor. So what about 6? 6 is a factor. Is that yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, because when you divide by 6, you get a remainder of 0, divides in evenly. So the same thing is true here. So you have 2 choices. You could do long division and see what your remainder is, or since it's x minus 2 and not an x squared or x cubed, you can do synthetic division, which is a little bit easier. Same thing, we want a remainder to be 0. So if I'm going to use synthetic, what number goes in the box? It comes from here. Would I put in -2 or +2? Set it equal to 0 and solve.
+2.
+2. And then for the numbers across the top, I use my coefficients over here in the p of x function, as long as it's in order and all of the exponents there. Third power, second power, first power, no power, everything's good. What's my leading coefficient?
1.
What's the next number?
-4.
And the next one?
3.
And the last one?
2.
2. And Marita, do you remember how to do synthetic?
I kind of remember.
Okay. You drop the first number. I'll start you off. You drop the first, and then you multiply. 2 times 1 is?
2.
2, and then you add.
Okay.
And that gives you what? -2?
Mhm.
Okay, and then again you multiply. What would that give you?
Multiply the 2 and the -2?
Yep.
-4.
And again you add. What would that give you?
-1.
And keep multiplying or keep
And then
going in that
-2.
pattern. And then
And then
add.
0.
Okay, so that last number is your remainder. If your remainder is 0, it is a factor. So is x minus 2 a factor, yes or no? Yes. And why is it a yes? Because the remainder is 0.
Ms. Torres,
Yes.
did it say that we had to do synthetic?
It didn't say you had to. It just said,
I did long division.
yeah, no, that's fine. I chose synthetic because it's easier. but it didn't say, it just said, is it a factor? Yes or no, and justify your response. So, so when I started off, I did say you could do either or. So yes, long division would work out perfectly fine as long as your remainder did come out to be 0, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Did anybody want to see it in long division instead of synthetic? We're good? Okay, I'm going to clear. And I am
I have
on-
another question.
Uh-huh.
Do you think you could do 7 and 8?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, 7, write the equation of a 4th degree polynomial. Okay, so let me write that down. 4th degree polynomial function with the roots of 2/3 that has a multiplicity of 2 and 5 minus root 3, and the y-intercept is 66. Okay, this part is going to be a little bit easier than this part. Okay, so I'm going to have y or f of x equals a. I don't know what a is. I'm going to find a at the end. You have two choices. You can write it as x minus 2/3 or 3x minus 2. I like it better that way, but if you put x minus 2/3, that is fine. But do you guys agree if I set 3x minus 2 equal to 0, added and divided, I'd end up with 2/3 as a solution? Now, why would I make it quantity squared? Anyone?
The multiplicity.
Because of what?
The multiplicity.
The multiplicity, correct. Okay, so then here is where I'm going to put the rest of it, this piece right here. It's a degree of 4. Right now I have a degree of 2. So in here, I'm going to end up with the rest of it. So does anybody remember what I do with that to figure out what goes into the second empty parentheses? I'll
Put
start you off.
x equals
Good. X equals 5 minus root 3. And then we want to undo the radical. The only way to do that is to square both sides. But what do I have to do first before I square both sides?
move the 5.
Move the 5 over. And then I do what to both sides?
Square it.
Don't forget, when you square a polynomial, you have to write it out twice. This piece here is a monomial, so it's just a negative times a negative is a positive. What's root 3 times root 3, or root 3 squared?
3.
3. The negative's gone because of the squared, and the radical's gone because of the squared. And then you do your double distribution. What does that give you? X squared minus
10x
10x plus
25.
equals 3. And what's the last step?
Move the 3 over.
I move the 3 over to get it equal to 0. And that gives me x squared minus 10x plus what?
22.
22. And now the common thing kids do here is they're like, oh, I'm going to solve this by completing the square or quadratic formula. If you were to solve this, you'd end up with that there as a solution, as one of the solutions. You don't want to do that. This here is what, without the equal 0, is what goes into that parentheses. So it's x squared minus 10x plus 22. Now we're still not done because I haven't found the a value yet. Before I do, any questions on how I got that there as a solution? Okay, so ignoring the a, if I were to take the 3x minus 2, set it equal to 0, I'd end up with 2/3 as the solution. if I were to take this x squared minus 10x plus 22 and use the quadratic formula or complete the square, I would end up with that as one of the solutions. Do you agree so far the degree is 4? Would you agree that the degree is 4? There's a 2 there and a 2 there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, how do I find the a value using the y-intercept?
Plug in 66 for y and then 0 for x.
Good, because if it's a y-intercept, then x's are 0. All right, so that gives me a times 0 minus 2 is negative 2 squared is what?
4.
4 times 0 minus 0 plus 22 is what?
22.
66 equals, what's 22 times 4?
88.
And I'm looking for a, so what do I divide both sides by?
88.
And I can at least divide by 11. Would you guys agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
When I divide by 11, what does that give me? 6 over
8.
8, and I could still reduce by 2. What does that give me?
3/4.
3/4. Oh. And that is my a value. So now I'm ready to write my equation y equals 3/4 3x minus 2 squared okay times x squared minus 10x plus 22 and that there is what it looks like. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you guys hear that loud airplane?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's annoying.
At first I thought it was just you.
What was that?
At first I thought it was just you.
No, it's a jet above, like I can see him in the sky. Okay, he's going further out. Any questions here before I race? Okay, so unit 9, number 8. Write the equation of a 4th degree polynomial function that has real coefficients. Okay, so it's similar to the last one. 4th degree and real coefficients and zeros of 2 plus I and negative 3I. And since it didn't give me a y-intercept or a point, I don't have to worry about finding a. Okay, questions so far? All right, so I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier. X equals 2 plus I and x equals negative 3I. And this one over here, I do have some subtracting to do. What am I going to subtract?
The 2.
The 2. And then what do I do to both sides to get rid of the I?
Square it. Oh,
Okay. And what is I times I?
1.
I squared is what?
1?
Negative 1?
Wait, is it negative 1?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Because
I have like y equals, wait, no, I mean I have like I equals 1, negative 1. So I might have that wrong.
yeah, I is just I. If you remember from math 2, you did that little I to the first, I squared, I cubed, I to the fourth. Do any of you guys remember from math 2, your teachers teaching you this? And
Yeah.
it was I one with opposites in the middle. Yeah. I won,
Yeah.
I won. So I squared is -1. And then you double distribute. And when you double distribute, what does that give you? X squared minus, anyone have it? X squared minus 2x minus 2x is minus
4x.
4x plus 4. Move the -1 over. And what does that give me? X squared minus 4x plus
5.
5. That's going to be one of your parentheses. And now here, there's nothing to move over because there's no +2 or -5. So we're going to go straight to squaring both sides. And since it's a monomial on both sides, I don't have to worry about double distribution. X squared is simply x squared. I do square the -3. What is -3 times -3?
9.
And then I do square the I. What's I squared? We just talked about it earlier.
-1.
-1. So x squared equals -9. I want to get the -9 over. So what do I do? Add the 9. And that gives me x squared plus 9. And that's going to go in the second parentheses. Now, if I were to, if I were to solve x squared plus 9 equals 0, and I were to subtract its square root, I get plus or minus 3i. So the -3i would indeed be one of the solutions. If I were to solve this by quadratic formula or complete the square, I would indeed end up with 2 plus I as one of the solutions. So I'm going to write it out. X squared minus 4x plus 5 and x squared plus 9. And since it didn't give us an intercept or a point to use, we don't find an A value. So that's the answer there for number 8. Does that make sense? All right, any questions? Okay, I'm gonna clear. And unit 8, number 14. Eric, that was the one you wanted, correct? Eric, are you still there? Yes?
Oh, yes, I am.
Okay, so this is
on
the one.
Unit 8, it only said to go to 13.
I'm on, oh, I meant to say
the
unit
schedule
9.
you sent
I'm
us
sorry.
out.
I'm on unit 9. Sorry. Okay, unit 9, number 14. Okay, y equals 6x to the third plus 25x squared.
Well, I did mean Unit 9.
Yeah, this is unit 9. I accidentally wrote unit 8. I know you meant unit 9. I just wrote it down wrong. This is the right one you wanted, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it's asking us to sketch, label all intercepts. Okay, if they're asking us to sketch, we have a lot of things to do. We have to find out its end behavior. It's a third degree polynomial, so it's either going to look like that, low high, or high low.
It's low high.
And
It's a
why is it
positive.
low high?
It's positive.
It's positive, so it's low high. Okay, what else can we figure out? We can figure out
No, the y-intercept.
the y-intercept is easy to find because you just plug in zeros for all your x's. What does that give you? If it's 0, 0, 0,
-8.
minus 8, -8. And then we can find the x-intercepts. And how do we find x-intercepts? Make the equation equal to
0.
0. And I can take out I can't take out a GCF, but there's 4 terms, so should we try factor by grouping? But that's not going to work either.
That's what I tried doing, but
Okay.
it doesn't work.
Did you try rearranging it? 3, 2, 1, 6, no. Okay. Yeah, that -8 at the end is kind of throwing things off. I'm not seeing it right off. Do any of you guys have any suggestions? Any of you that may have done this already? I'm looking at the answer key, and the answer key has 5 as a solution.
I
Positive
don't know how
5.
they got 5 because I tried plugging in zeros for actually no, I tried plugging in 5 into the as x. It doesn't even create an
It
x
doesn't
intercept.
work.
I tried plugging it
Let's,
in, but it doesn't equal 0 as y. Something else, I believe.
all right, and if you guys have calculators, can you help me out? What's 5 to the 3rd?
125.
And what's 125 times 6?
750.
And 25 times 25?
Wait a minute. X minus
625.
5 is a solution. Does that mean it would mean x minus 5? No. Never mind. It's not -5. I can't put that in. I tried doing something else before.
That's okay. What's 25 times 25?
625.
625, I believe.
Okay. 625. Garen, did you say something, or is that what you said, the 625?
Yeah, I said that.
Okay. Plus 10 minus 8. There's no way that's going to equal 0.
Why did they
So
list it as 5 then?
I don't know. And if you look at the answer key, there's numbers crossed out and things moved around.
No, that is not the x-intercept.
Miss Torres.
Yeah.
You know the schedule you sent out to us?
For
For the final review, like the assignment sheet. It says only to go to 13.
oh, on this one here.
Yeah.
Is that what you were telling me earlier, Garen? And I said,
Yeah,
no,
that's
no.
what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize.
No, you're good.
So this is one he was saying on the schedule we're supposed to skip. Okay. All right. My apologies. Okay. Sorry, Eric. Yeah, I'm not seeing it right now, and it's set to skip, so we're not going to worry about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any others from Unit 9?
No, I don't have
Nope.
any other questions right now.
Okay. Unit 10? Any
School
questions
mode.
from Unit 10?
Nope.
Okay. Unit 11?
Nope. Not me.
Nope. Marita, Eric, Andrea,
Can you do
Karen?
number 5 from Unit 11?
Did you have any questions, Marita, from Unit 10?
No, not from 10.
Okay, so Unit 11, which number?
Number 5?
Actually, from the wait, are you still in Unit 11?
Yes,
Can you do number 14,
yes.
like later on, please?
Yep. Okay, number 5, x minus 4 quantity squared plus y plus 2 quantity squared, and this is over 81, and this is over 64 equals 1. And it's asking us to sketch and find all of its pieces. Okay, there's two squares, so it's not a parabola. We know that. There's a plus sign, so it's not a hyperbola. We know that. These two numbers at the bottom are not the same. If they were the same, it would make it a circle. Since they're not the same, it makes it an ellipse. And it tells us there for the ellipse to find, what does it tell us to find? Well, we find the center. It doesn't ask for it, but we need the center. The vertices, the foci, the length of the major and minor axis. All right, what is the center? Opposite of the insides for both of them. What's the center?
4, -2.
4, -2. And then I'm going to sketch it and figure out everything else. All right, over 4, down 2. And then from here, I'm going to move right and left. Anything under the X tells me how far. So square root of 81 is 9. So how far am I going to move right and left? How far am I going to move right and left? The 9.
Right, 9.
Mm-hmm. Okay, how far up and down? That's the number underneath the Y. How far up and down?
8.
8. All right, and it's going to be really crazy looking, but it's going to be an ellipse. Kind of like a Hey Arnold head. Okay, and then it says to find the vertices. Okay, vertices are the 2 points for an ellipse. It's the 2 points that are closest together or furthest apart.
Furthest apart.
So it's these 2 points right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's 13, -2. 1, 2, 3, 4, -5, -2. Make sense? And let's do major minor. That's easy. The length of the major axis is the length from the 2 endpoints that are furthest apart. What's that length right there? If I went right and left to 9, what's the total length? 18.
Yeah.
And minor axis is, so that was, what did we say, 18? Minor axis will be from the 2 points that are closest together. And if I went up and down 8, what's the length there?
16.
16. Okay. And then now to find the length of, or to find the focus, we have to find our focal length. Do you guys remember the formula? C squared equals A squared minus B squared with absolute value. Do you guys kind of remember that? C squared,
Yeah.
this was the one that unfortunately was done all over the videos because we were already on distance learning. So I'm going to do 81 minus 64. And what is 81 minus 64?
17.
17. square root. So I'm going to go right and left, root 17. Root 17, if any of you with the calculator, would be 8 point what? Not 8 point, I'm sorry, 4 point what?
.123.
Okay, so we'll say 4.1. So I'm going to go right and left, 4.1, 1, 2, 3, 4.1, 1, 2, 3, 4.1. Now, as an ordered pair, I don't write it as a decimal, I write it with the radical. And from the center, I went right and left. When I go right and left from the center, what value is changing from my center? The x value or the y value?
The x value.
The x value. So I'm going to put 4 plus or minus, and how far right and left did I move? Root
17.
Comma, and what value stayed the same? The -2. So there's your picture and all its characteristics. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Unit 11, number 14. Any questions here before I erase? Andrea, are you still there? Okay, I had a question, but maybe one of you guys can answer. Have any of you guys checked the website to see if my previous Zoom videos are on? No, it's okay. I'll check it after.
I think they are.
Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. Okay, unit 11, number 14. The vertex is -4, 1. It opens up and has a point on the parabola that is -9, 6. Okay, if it opens up and not up and down, the only thing it could be is a parabola. If it opens up, is it y equals x squared or x equals y squared? What type of parabola is it?
The x equals y squared, I believe.
No,
X
squared.
Yeah, it'll be this one. The x equals y squareds are the ones that are sideways, right or left.
Oh, okay.
Up or down is x squared, and since it's opening up, a should come out to be positive. Okay, y equals a parentheses x minus h quantity squared plus k. H and k are the vertex. So x minus -4, what would that be? X minus 4 or x plus 4?
+4.
Plus 4. And then plus what?
1.
1, which makes sense because if I gave you this and said, hey, what's the vertex? You would say opposite of the inside, outside stays the same, -4, +1, and that's what it is. Okay, how do I find A?
Plug in the points.
6 equals A, x is -9 plus 4 squared plus 1. What's -9 plus 4?
-5.
And -5 squared?
25.
And now I'm ready to solve. What do I subtract?
The 1.
So 25a equals 5. Divide both sides by
25.
25. What does a equal?
1/5.
1/5. And we said earlier a should come out to be positive because it's opening up. Did that work?
Yeah.
Yep. So then we come back here and write our equation. Y equals 1/5 parentheses x plus 4 quantity squared plus 1. Make sense? Okay. Any other questions from unit 11?
Wait, did we need a graph 14?
Write the equation in standard form. Nope, that's all it says. Write it in standard form.
Oh, okay.
Can you do number 9?
Uh-huh. Are you guys ready for me to clear?
Yeah. All right. Hey, Miss Torres, I might just go right now because I don't know if I got any other questions for you.
Okay, that's fine.
I see you, Miss Torres.
Okay, see you, Eric. Miss you. Bye-bye.
All right, see you. Boop.
Okay, 1/6 y squared minus x plus 1/3 y minus 23 over 6 equals 0. Write the equation in standard form. Okay, there's two squares. Nope, there's only one square. Do you guys agree there's only one squared?
Yeah.
Which means it's a parabola. Parabolas are usually a little bit harder for students to figure out because they're so used to doing complete the square with double variables, not a single. It confuses them a little. So before I even worry about completing the square, what can I multiply everything by to clear the fractions? Fractionally,
6.
I multiply by the
6.
common denominator, correct. Okay, so that gives me y squared minus 6x plus what? 1/3 times 6 is what? 2y minus 23 equals 0. Okay, now the way you complete the square when it's only one variable being squared is you get what's being squared, the y. So you get the y's by itself and everything else to the other side. So I'm going to add over the 6x because there's no squared on that. And I'm going to add over the 23 because it's just kind of in the way. And I'm going to leave the y squared and the 2y by itself. Y squared minus 2y, I'm going to put a plus blank, equals 6x plus 23 plus blank. And I'm able to put the plus blank because there's no leading coefficient that I need to factor out. Do you remember how to find the plus blank? You take the -2, cut in half and square it. What does that give you?
1.
1. And then you factor this side, 6x plus 24, and then y minus and y minus, what is that?
1.
What was it?
1.
1, yeah.
And which makes sense because the whole reason we do this is to write it as quantity squared. And now I want to get x by itself. So what would I subtract over?
24.
24.
So that gives me 6x equals y minus 1 quantity squared minus 24. And then I divide everything by what?
6.
6.
All right, so that gives me x equals 1/6 y minus 1 squared minus, what's 24 divided by 6?
4.
4. So that there is your parabola in descriptive form. Does that make sense? There is one small mistake that I made. Does anybody, and it was just a writing error. It's an easy fix, but it's just when I transferred stuff over, I wrote it incorrectly. Did anybody catch it?
On this problem?
Yeah.
Oh, it's supposed to be y plus 1.
Yeah, and where was the mistake made? I just circled it. You guys see it?
The plus 2y.
Yeah, I wrote it here as a minus 2y, and it should be a plus 2y, but that is an easy fix because it just changes the y minus 1 to what?
Plus 1.
Plus 1. And there we go. Okay, make sense? Questions on this one?
Nope.
Okay. Any others from Unit 11? Okay, any from Unit 12? None from Unit 12?
Got anything?
Can you do number 15 and 24?
15 and 24 from Unit 12?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Solve for x, accuracy to the nearest thousandth when necessary. So it's 1/2 log of x equals 3 log of 5 minus log of x. There's a log on each side, which looks like it's going to end up being a drop the log, but we have to do something with these coefficients first. Do you guys remember how we get rid of them and it's not dividing?
Make them exponents.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we are going to combine these two. And when I combine them, because it's a minus, would that be multiplication or division when I bring them together?
Isn't it division?
It is division. And
Yeah.
what's 5 to the 3rd power?
125.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're down to a single log on each side. In order to drop the log, in order to get rid of the log, we either drop the log or wrap around. Both of those gets rid of a log. Which one is it in this case? Drop the log or wrap around?
Drop.
Drop, yeah.
Why is it a drop?
Because they have
You-
one log on each side.
You
Correct.
can't like wrap around.
Right. All right, I want to solve for x, so what would I multiply both sides by?
X.
And since they are like bases, I'm going to add the exponents. And you're going to add 1 plus 1/2. What does that give you? What over 2?
3/2.
3/2. And then what would I raise both sides to get rid of that exponent? I don't multiply by the reciprocal. I raise to the reciprocal. So what would I raise both sides to?
2/3.
2/3. Do you agree that's how I would rewrite it? The cube root of 125 squared, that's what a 2/3 powers mean.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the cube root of 125?
5, and then you square that, right?
Uh-huh. So your
Okay.
final answer is
25.
25. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions from Unit 12?
Oh, it's 24. That's what
Oh, yeah.
the other
Thank
one
you.
was.
Okay, in order to do 24, I'm going to write down the given information. It gave you some information. It says that log of 3 equals 0.4771 and log of 4 equals D. Then it wants us to evaluate log of 0.75. So you don't need it on this one, but I'm going to write it down. You should always remember that whatever the bases are, since the bases are 10, that log base 10 of 10 equals 1. If the bases were 7, you would do log base 7 of 7 equals 1. Okay, so what we're going to do is see if we can get 0.75 using 3 and or 4 and or 10 using multiplication, division, and exponents. Let's first write it as a fraction. What is 0.75 as a fraction?
3/4.
What is it?
3/4.
3/4.
Okay, so I don't have to do any rewriting. Do you agree? I'm already using 3 and 4 as division.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I do have to rewrite it though, but rewrite it separating the logs because I don't have any log of 3/4. I can't say, oh, I'm going to use 0.4771 over D. It doesn't work that way. I have to separate them.
So would it be log of 3 minus log of 4?
It sure would. Good
Okay.
job. So log of 3 is 0.4771 minus D. And since they're not like terms, that's how you would write your answer. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right, any others from Unit 12?
Can you go over 26? Like, I think I know how to do it because it has the denominator of 3,
Mm-hmm.
but then I don't know what to do and like how to get the 4.
You don't need to use the 4. In this
Oh,
case,
okay.
you don't need to. But there's more than one way of doing this. So what would you do, Marita? What would you think of? We don't want it 1/3, or we could leave it 1/3. It's up to you. What would you think to do?
I would just leave it 1/3.
Okay, and then how would you separate it?
Log of 1 minus log of 3.
Correct? Now, this way is fine. You just have to remember what log of 1 is. We didn't write it down up here. It's just one of those you should remember. Do you remember what log of 1 is?
No.
It's okay. 10 to what power equals 1? 10 to what power equals 1? There's only
0.
0. 0
Okay.
minus log of 3 is 0.4771. So negative 0.4771.
Okay.
There's another way of doing it, but that way works just fine. Would you want to see the other way, or is this most likely a way you would work it out?
Yeah, I would remember that.
Okay, good. Any others from this unit?
No, I think I'm good.
Garen?
No, I don't have any.
Okay.
So is that it? Are we good?
We are good. So I am going to, I'll post this on my website in a little bit. Okay, we are good. Any questions? Is that it? We're good?
Yep.
All right. Love you guys. Miss you guys. Again, if you're on campus next year, come by and visit and say hi, because we are not going to have a farewell goodbye this year. You guys got the email, right, that we're not returning?
Yeah.
Wait, what is it?
That because we were supposed to be returning, I think, like tomorrow or next week. That was the initial return date, or
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
but we got the email saying we're not returning this year, this
Yeah.
academic year. Yeah. Okay. Well, again, love you guys, miss you guys. I will hopefully see you soon, hear from you soon.
Okay. Bye, Mr. Rose.
Bye.
Rose.
Bye.